Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains Information Session. My name is Angela Smith. I'm our Human Resources Manager and your moderator for this event. Before we get started, please be aware that this live event is being recorded. Also, you are attending in listen-only mode, and if you would like to activate closed captioning, please refer to your question and answer window for instructions. Now, we have a great line of presenters today, and over the next hour, we'll provide you with an overview of our office, delve into some of the exciting work going on in our program offices, review our job openings, discuss how to apply, and answer a few questions. We hope you enjoy your time with us today and become as passionate about MESC as we are. To get us started, we'll hear a few words from our director, Julia Sicardo.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We are very much looking forward to sharing more about MESC's mission with you and some of the impact that we are really proud of as a team. We can go to the next slide. We'll kick off with a little bit of a look into our vision and our purpose. So at MESC, we are focused on delivering the how of the energy transition. We are the Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains Office. So we are all about the linkages that actually enable the energy economy to function and enable our energy economy to transition. We are currently planning on investing about $20 billion directly just next year in investments in manufacturing capacity and workforce. So we have a sizable and fast-paced work plan going into the next year, and we will share a little bit more with you about that. Our vision is one of very high impact with the investments that we're making and the programs that we're driving. We are really looking to address the vulnerabilities that currently exist in the U.S. energy supply chain and to not only resolve those gaps, but actually create substantial social, economic, and environmental impact through the programs that we fund and through the investments that we make. If we go to the next slide, a little bit of history about MESC. MESC is actually a startup within the government, a startup within, one could say, perhaps the biggest corporation in the world. We were created in February of 2022, just a couple years ago now, and we are already taking action. So from as you can see, just a short while ago, when our purpose was written into statute in the bipartisan infrastructure law, we were funded with a significant program and able to move forward to start to make our investments, making our very first investment in October of 2022. And already having our first groundbreaking earlier this year, putting those dollars that were invested to work. We are very excited that a lot of the projects that we're funding are going to be able to swiftly add to manufacturing capacity in critical junctures. And as you can see from this slide, we are already bringing on some of that manufacturing capacity as early as next year. Most of these capital projects take a long time, but we are prioritizing and working closely with entrepreneurs that have a vision and a path to scaling up quickly. If we go to the next slide, we'll share a little bit about what we cover. And to be very simple about it, MESC really has three core building blocks. First, we're investing in manufacturing capacity. That means investing in factories that are making energy products that are essential to our energy economy, whether those are critical minerals that are precursors to battery materials, whether those are electrolyzers, heat pumps, wind turbines. We are focused on building U.S. manufacturing capacity to make those essential components and products. We are also focused on investing in workforce. All of these supply chains are really at the end of the day run by people who are doing the engineering jobs, who are doing the line worker jobs to make these products and really bring them to life. And so we're focused on partnering with academic institutions to support workforce training, workforce development programs, even extending into reskilling and conversion as well. And finally, we have a third pillar, which is our analytics backbone. Everything that we do is really informed by and driven by data. We have a in-house analytics team that is focused on supply chain and industrial decarbonization research that works closely with our partners at the national labs to stitch together world-class models, proprietary data sets, and really drive insight as that relates to investment themes that we're most focused on and support our decisions as we're making investments across these supply chains and shaping new programs. So all of these building blocks really work together, and you will hear subsequently colleagues from our team share a little bit about each of these teams and how they work together. So if we go to the next slide, a little bit about where MESC fits into the DOE. So, if you're tuning in for this program, you're clearly interested in the Department of Energy and, potential role here, but it may look a little bit like a black box from the outside, how all of these offices are organized and how they all fit together. A good way to really think about it, and this actually relates to a reorganization that we did as a department when the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act passed, is that we really span a spectrum of commercialization activities at the DOE, and we support companies across that journey. So starting out with research and development on one side, we go all the way up to what we call D&D, demonstration and deployment. So really working with projects coming out of university labs that may not even be incorporated into companies as of yet, to working with some of the biggest automotive and energy companies in the world and everything in between. We're really able to cover that across our offices. And we have different offices that are focused on different parts of that mission, different parts of that spectrum, and different parts of that journey. So starting kind of at the beginning, as you see on this slide, you have offices such as ARPA-E, which you may have heard of, which is doing a lot of our Earthshot investing in the latest and most cutting edge innovation, as well as EERE, which is our Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, also investing in a great deal of the innovation and research and development activities. And then you start to kind of cross this line into demonstration and deployment, working with some of the offices that fund larger programs, such as our Fossil Energy and Carbon Management office, which funds a lot of carbon mitigation and carbon capture activities, into OSED, our Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, which is working on hydrogen hubs and large-scale DAC plant investing. So big capital projects, but that are more pilot stage in nature, more new and more experimental. And then you come to MESC. So MESC is just before our loan programs office, LPO, which provides preferred debt financing. We are working with the biggest companies on deployment and biggest projects, but we work with startups all the way into large scale companies, and we are focused on making at scale commercial manufacturing investments. So, we look at very significant manufacturing projects and make project level investments with an average check size of about $100 million, though we go smaller and larger than that, depending on the project and the company. And we occupy this growth equity type category. If you're kind of coming from the private sector and looking for an alternative explanation to where we sit, we are funding projects specifically to get them off the ground, but really working with companies that have a commercialized product, that have the beginnings of offtake agreements, and are ready to bring into production a product that customers can use today in the here and now. So hopefully that's helpful to kind of sift through the alphabet soup of all of the different offices that sit across the Department of Energy and understand MESC's relative role. I think we can go to the next slide. We'll kind of emphasize here the unique role that MESC occupies. Those of you who may have had some experience with the venture world may be familiar with this expression, the Valley of Death. The Valley of Death refers to the significant challenge of founding a company and really getting it off the ground. And so, a lot of focus, really as a result, drives towards, R&D stage companies to make sure that they have the dollars to really invest in developing the product and testing the product and making sure there's a good fit with the customer. But where MESC sits is in this often ignored, but very important and very capital intensive last stage of that Valley of Death. We sit in the stage where it's the time to spend the money and take the risk to build that factory. And it's an at-scale factory. So the project will cost hundreds of millions of dollars, may even be approaching or crossing that $1 billion threshold. It's probably a type of facility that we don't see too many of here in the U.S. Because we may have been offshoring that type of manufacturing to Asia, or have just underinvested in that category. And so the private sector investor may not be willing to take all of the risk to fund the scale up of that plant. And that's where we can come in and put in the initial capital and capital commitment to be able to ensure that this project gets off the ground. Our dollars do not sit on the cap table, so they don't dilute the IRR that prospective investors can return, but rather enhance the returns that prospective investors can have. And so that can really, set off a flywheel such that investors can have the comfort, have the appetite to do a project, that looks new and, plays a really important role in our U.S. energy security and U.S. energy supply chains. And so, that is a little bit of an illustration of, where we are in this journey, moving from that trough of this Valley of Death to kind of cross the Rubicon here and, get this company, this segment of the supply chain, this business model activated and moving. We can go to the next slide. And hard to see here, but we're super proud that we are already, within our first year of operation as a startup, sitting on a portfolio that spans 38 states and 71 different projects with companies and academic institutions. You see here some of the emerging clusters, across the map. And we are looking forward to, building this portfolio out even further. And I'll share a little bit more about that as we go. We can go to the next slide. A few examples. This is a subset of some of the companies that sit in our portfolio on the battery manufacturing front. You see that we really invest across supply chains. Even when we take a category like critical minerals and batteries, we really develop a perspective around investment themes of interest for us, which we call areas of interest. And you may have seen described if you've read some of our funding opportunity announcements that we use to announce when we are going to actively be making investments in particular technologies. But we really, seek to develop and build out manufacturing where it has not existed before and really connect and scale up these supply chains. What is very exciting is that we are seeing an increasing trend of some of our portfolio companies actually strike up JVs and agreements to collaborate, especially those that are bringing about interconnected products and really think about their timing of bringing that manufacturing capacity online in concert and their marketing activities in concert. So we're proud of our portfolio and kind of looking forward to further supporting them and the connections and information sharing that fall out from being part of this cohort. We go on to the next slide. And this is something I'm really excited to share with you all. We've talked a lot about investing, and in the private sector, investing is very much driven by returns, and IRR rules the game. And we of course think about returns at MESC. We want our companies to really be going concerns, to be structured to create value. And have a profitable and solid business model, but because we are not owning a part of this company, we're not holding that equity, we're really thinking bigger. We are focused on the impact that these investments are creating for the community, for society, for our economy overall. And so these are some of the things that we track and we hold ourselves accountable to. We look at how much private sector investment did we catalyze, and it's important to note these stats are now perhaps about a month old, and they've already changed for the better dramatically. So we look forward to sharing the latest in our annual report, which will come out next year. But off of about $2 billion of government investment, we catalyzed over $7 billion of private sector investment that came to the table to put forward projects that would have otherwise, without our support, potentially not gone forward. So, we're really proud of the de-risking that we can play in kind of bringing that private sector capital to the table. Next, you see the jobs number. We are really focused on growing the pool of good jobs that are in this clean energy economy, and look forward to scaling that up even further and providing a path to all sorts of individuals who may or may not have attended a four-year institution, may or may not have had a different career before kind of choosing to jump in, and looking to create more of those programs through our companies and through our direct workforce engagement. We have an internal target that 40% of our investments actually flow into energy justice communities. Transitions are hard, and they can often actually exacerbate inequality. And so we actually track at the census tract level, where are the communities that are most likely to be challenged in securing employment, that have to date been challenged by environmental justice, and actually ensure that the investments that we're making are positioned to create jobs in those areas, to clean up those areas. And so, so far with our initial investments, we're approaching that target. We're on track to, exceeding that in the coming year, and are, looking forward to continuing to double down on that goal. We are training students, and this is an area that is really important to us, ensuring that folks are getting that training to be able to participate in that clean energy economy and have the skills, to earn a great role in this new future. And we're also keeping track of how many products we're enabling with, U.S. made components through our investments. This is an example here on the EV supply chain side. We're also tracking this on heat pumps and other clean energy technologies where, we're really making big pushes. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what our values are through, how we're tracking our impact. And then we can go to the next slide. So a little bit about what we're up to. You're going to hear a lot more about this in the presentations by my colleagues to follow, but want to give you a little bit of a kind of 50-foot view right now of what we're focused on. So on the left-hand side, you have some of the programs that are currently active right now, and on the right-hand side, a little bit of a preview, sneak peek of what's coming down the pipe next year. So left-hand side, we have right now an active program on automotive conversion. So this is a program where we are funding companies that are currently making internal combustion engine vehicles and parts to convert those facilities to make electric vehicles or fuel cell vehicles, and actually retrain all of the workforce to do a new job, in that facility in the same place going forward. And so this is our, first, real workforce conversion program. We're really excited about the applications that we've been getting and are currently reviewing those, and really looking forward to making some big announcements about our investments here next year. This is a $2 billion program, so quite sizable. Another big program that we have active right now is our battery materials processing and battery manufacturing grants. We did a first round of investments of about $2 billion last year, and so this will be a second round. We are currently open and accepting concept papers, which is our word for pitch decks, and overviews about those projects, and are looking forward to a really successful second wave there. And we also have an active program right now around rebates. So we are supporting purchases of extended products and transformers that are energy efficient and will improve the resilience of the grid. So all these three are active. In terms of a quick view of what's coming down the pipe next year and what the team is going to be working on, once we come back from the holidays, planning for a second round of 48C, which is a historic tax credit that cuts across industrial decarbonization, clean energy materials, and clean energy product manufacturing. We are going to be doing a even bigger round next year as we close out the first round that we already started this year. We are going to be doing another round of advanced manufacturing and recycling investments. We had our announcements of the round that we did this year close out a couple weeks ago, and with some good coverage in the New York Times. So, take a look there. These are all projects that are focused on clean energy manufacturing and are actually based in former coal communities. So, really exciting example of, investing behind that transition. We are going to be doing another round of Industrial Assessment Center implementation grants. I will not steal the team's thunder to tell you more about the Industrial Assessment Center program, but this is a really fantastic program that brings students and professors and their recommendations into the real life workspace and provides DOE funding to implement recommendations that have some really exciting energy efficiency impacts. So more to come from that program next year. And last but certainly not least, one of the things so many things that we're proud of from this year, but one of the things that we're very proud of is that we are the first office to administer the Defense Production Act on behalf of the Department of Energy. And last month had some big announcements there about our first wave of investments in heat pumps supported by the Defense Production Act, and we are going to be doing more of that next year. So the team will share, in a lot more detail how these investments work and what they're proud of, but want to give you a little bit of an overview so you know what to watch out for as the presenters behind me follow on. So I think we can go to the next slide. And I will just kind of briefly highlight, as you pay attention to the subsequent presenters and as they share more about their programs, you may hear some terminology which, if you've not worked in government before, may sound a little bit different, a little bit foreign. And so a little explainer for you as you kind of go into the next sections. We follow an investment process that looks a little bit different than what one might follow in the private sector, but it is quite parallel. So when we are preparing to make an investment in a particular part of the supply chain or in a particular thematic category, we will make an announcement. And in the private sector, that might happen more behind closed doors or at a conference. You might hear that word of mouth. We're very public about it in the government and at the Department of Energy. So there's a news blast. There is a official blog post. Lots of emails go out. It's on our website. It's known and public to all. What we're looking for, so that anybody who has a good project and is interested can come to us and approach us. When we are, ready to, move on this investment process and, start to, really review project proposals, we will make what is called a funding opportunity announcement, or FOA for short. That is kind of, the official green light. We're open for business, and, we want to hear from you, entrepreneurs and companies. And the first milestone in that process is, we'll make a call for a concept paper. That concept paper, as I referenced earlier, is really a short pitch deck, a short explanation of what are the highlights of this project, why are you excited about it, why should we be excited about it. Having this short set of information really allows our team to get a sense for what is going to be coming through this process, and for us to give some feedback to the companies that are reaching out and let them know, is this a project that we are also excited about, or do we have some concerns about the project and it may not be the best fit for our goals or this particular program that it's been applied to. So we're able to kind of, give some feedback before a lot of heavy legwork happens. After that, we get, full pitch decks, full applications. These may be maybe 30 pages of information with some, supporting background. And that really allows us to dig in and due diligence and decide, is this a great project? We score the projects, we rank them, but we have some really substantive discussion in, our version of an investment committee process, which is called a merit review. And the projects that are really rising to the top of that merit review get invited to come to DC or join us for a virtual meeting and, answer some final questions, really explain to us, why they're excited to move forward with us as an investor. And from those interviews, we make our final selections. And at that point forward, we go back and forth with the company and, or the organization and figure out what are, the milestones that we're going to invest behind. Just like in the private sector, you wouldn't cut a giant check and let the company run off with it. We think about use of proceeds. We think about, FEL milestones as a project is being constructed. When is the money actually needed? And, what are the commitments? What are the intermediate objectives and milestones that company needs to hit to show us that they're on track? So as we go, we're really checking in with that company and making sure that it's following the strategy that we set, from the outset. And, we're able to pause or, readjust if we need to and really, protect taxpayer dollars, but also ensure that, we're really having a good dialogue with that organization and that it's going to achieve all the impacts that, we had chosen it to do. And, when we finalize what that plan looks like, what are all those milestones look like, we formalize and sign a final award. And, then we get to work on following through that plan that we set with the company and bringing that manufacturing capacity online, bringing that organizational capacity online, depending on the investment. So these are some of the words, you may hear about some of the milestones and, hopefully kind of seeing this laid out in a timeline gives a little bit of that sense, context as you're listening to the next sessions. You see the topics that we're interested in. We're really focused on supply chain security. We are the supply chain office. We work closely with the National Security Council, with the Department of Defense, with a whole group of interagency organizations to really think about, what are the most important priorities for our nation as it comes to energy. We're also really focused on commercial viability. We are a deployment office, and like LPO, we're very focused on projects that are going to be a going concern, that are not experimental, that really are proven, have a track record. And so, doing some substantive commercial diligence is, part of our work. And we're also focused on, the bigger picture. So decarbonization, community benefits, workforce development are all going to be themes you're going to hear my colleagues talk about as they share a little bit more about their investment programs and the companies and organizations that they're supporting. So I think that probably brings this introduction session to a close, unless there's one more slide here. No, perfect. So with that, I will leave you in the very good hands of my colleague Kelly, who leads our manufacturing and workforce development pillar, to share more about that program.
Thank you so much, Julia. What a fantastic overview and way to set the stage. If you go to the next slide, please. So I think, as Julia mentioned, this is really a historic time at the department. I've been here, let's call it roughly a decade after spending my first 10 years in the private sector. And I have not seen the mission of the department has always been a big draw for me personally. It aligns to my values and what I want to spend my time working on and helping try to affect change. I think in the last several years, with the passing of the Infrastructure Law, Inflation Reduction Act, and all the other programs that we have, it's really just been truly an unprecedented time at the department, and energizing and exciting to work on. And we have a fantastic team as well. So great mission, great people, love coming to work every day. So just to tell you a little bit about my program, and that I have the pleasure to serve as the acting deputy director for. We are really focused on increasing U.S. manufacturing capacity, and we do that through either building new facilities and factories or retrofitting existing ones to do two things: to make clean energy products or to reduce facility emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. And the really unique piece of our particular programs is we have an emphasis on small and medium-sized manufacturers, which are the backbone of U.S. manufacturing. If I recall correctly, I think the stat is something like 99% of all companies are small and medium-sized businesses. So really critical and important for our economy, jobs, and overall health and well-being of the country. We have three focus areas, which I'll talk about in more detail on our next slide. Overall, about $1.4 billion in federal fundings. We have a team of 14 federal employees supported by contractors and other lab staff, and we are growing. So there are some open positions on our website that I hope you'll take a look at, and if you're interested, please do apply. Going on to the next slide, please. So just to give a quick overview of some of our programs and how they're structured and what the objectives are, and then I have the great pleasure of sharing some of our recent selections on a few of them. So like I said in the beginning, the first step is really this investing in the actual building out of manufacturing capacity, whether that's re-equipping facilities or building new facilities. So our Advanced Energy Manufacturing and Recycling Grant Program, this is $750 million total. We just completed selections for the first round of funding, and as Julia mentioned, we'll be planning for a second round in 2024. The other program that's really helping small and medium-sized manufacturers accelerate their access to using smart manufacturing tools and as well as access high-performance computing. So really the ability to get more of our businesses into the digital thread, into Industry 4.0, improve their efficiency, productivity, make more money, save energy, reduce their emissions. These are operated through the states, and we're excited to partner with those 12 states, which I'll share in a future slide. In our workforce deployment and technical assistance pillar, we have a core program, the Industrial Assessment Centers that Julia mentioned. This has been a long-standing program. I think over 20,000 assessments have been completed since it started. It's really based at universities, training engineers to do audits and provide technical assistance to small and medium-sized manufacturers. With the passing of the infrastructure law, that program is now expanded to the types of organizations that are participating. So expanding to skilled trades training. These are entities like community colleges, technical schools, union apprenticeship programs, things like that. And also strengthening the overall network through the creation of centers of excellence and expanding these assessments beyond the traditional energy efficiency measures to include things like resiliency as well as reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So another exciting expansion of the overall program are the implementation grants. This is $400 million total that is now available for small and medium-sized manufacturers who have been through one of these IAC assessments or IAC equivalents, which we have a process out to determine third parties as IAC equivalent. Once you've been through one of those assessments, you are now eligible to receive funding to help implement the recommendations. So that's up to 50% cost share and $300,000 to really put those into practice. Okay. And then their third pillar is really an integrating function, tying several efforts within MESC and then across the Department of Energy to really drive reducing greenhouse gas emissions in key industrial manufacturing sectors where the majority of emissions come from. So we are developing a joint strategy across the whole of DOE. So to Julia's graph where you saw sort of the research development demonstration deployment curve, how do we make sure we're building that pipeline across, addressing demand side barriers, addressing other barriers to the adoption of solutions, as well as identifying the places where we really need to continue to innovate. So that's another key piece of our work. If we go to the next slide, please. So just to highlight some of the types of projects and in the first round that we selected for the Advanced Energy Manufacturing Grants, we selected 7 projects that span 7 states This is $275 million in federal funding, matched by, I think, about $600 million in private sector funding or non-federal government funding. And you can see the range of types of products. So really key important pieces of the supply chains, starting with Boston Metal as an example, developing ultra pure chromium metals, which are necessary for high temperature applications in clean power. They have application in fuel cells as well as green steel production. All the way through grid storage, so lithium iron phosphate batteries, and then even down to wind energy production, energy conservation with window production. And these are a range of projects from automation and retrofits through new builds and increasing overall capacity of US manufacturing for these key pieces of the clean energy transition. Next slide, please. So going back to the state manufacturing leadership program, we selected 12 states. We have another funding round that we also anticipate for 2024. And really these programs are designed to provide small, medium manufacturers information, education, direct opportunities to test and validate potential solutions, as well as potential funding to implement those solutions in their facilities. A really nice part of this program is they're taking advantage of existing resources within their states or other federal programs such as the NIST Manufacturing Extension Partnership. So really excited to see these projects get going, and that we're in negotiations on these awards. Next slide, please. And our last set of selections that we recently announced are on the Industrial Assessment Center expansion. We selected 17 new IACs at community colleges or union training programs. There's about $32 million total of federal funding, and on target with the selectees planning to train at least 3,000 professionals with a strong focus on students and manufacturers in historically underserved communities. You can see the overlay of manufacturing employment on the graph, and that the IACs have a very strong connection to in high concentrations of manufacturing within the United States. And I think if you go to the next slide. Great, so just to touch on again, the coordination work and effort with our Industrial Technologies Joint Strategy team. This is chartered by the Secretary and Deputy Secretary to develop a strategy, make sure we're coordinating internally across the board, identifying key gaps and coming up with plans to address those gaps, and serving as sort of a central point of contact for external engagement with industry and other stakeholders, really targeting energy efficiency and reducing emissions and keeping the US competitive in a net zero economy as we go forward. Great, I think, Angela, that might be my last slide. We go to the next one. I have now the pleasure to hand over the mic to Stephen Boyd and learn more about batteries and critical materials. Thanks, Steve.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure to spend a minute with you going through what we're working on here in MESC 20. So let's go to the next slide. And just to tee up a little bit of our organization here, Kelly just talked to you on manufacturing and workforce. After us, Jake is going to cover analysis of strategic investment. I'm here to talk batteries and critical materials. So you see us in the middle there. You know, our primary focus here is this upstream and midstream processing, refining, and materials production and manufacturing, as well as recycling. So really the heart of the industry that's doing a lot of the type of work that we're trying to support in supply chains. There's a few focus areas called out there. Of course, as mentioned, that this is sort of the early days in terms of our startup, but we definitely have a strong charge in a lot of the materials listed there, especially battery materials, which I'm going to talk a bit about. Let's go to the next slide. And I just wanted to talk through a little bit of a picture of a cartoon here in terms of the example of the lithium battery supply chain. Just an example in providing those for electric vehicles, definitely an area that we have a strong focus on and a strong directive on that was through the bipartisan infrastructure law, section 40207 subsections B and C. We're getting into specifics, but just to drill down into that for a minute, that's really addressing that sort of center of the midstream for those materials highlighted there for these batteries and battery cells and the materials that go into the batteries and the manufactured materials that are part of a battery, all required to get into packs and the applications you see there. And so in terms of highlighting there outlined in red for MESC 20, we have these sections in 40207, as well as recycling that's at that end of life recycling and reuse for these batteries. I've highlighted a couple other examples of similar programs across the department, including MESC 30, the Loan Program Office, as well as some of the work that's supporting us from the Title III DPA work. Just to sort of paint the picture in terms of, we definitely see ourselves as part of the supply chain ecosystem that's really applying across the board here. And so these are folks that we work with, and happy to have the broad support here in terms of this specific example. All right, so let's go to the next slide, and I'll talk just a little bit more about some of the particular materials we're interested in for batteries to give you sort of paint the picture in terms of when we say supply chain, what are we talking about? And so I've highlighted here in light blue, these are all materials that we're focused on in terms of the graph on the right there. And so we're playing out sort of our understanding of these three different scenarios looking towards light duty vehicle sales in for electrified vehicles in 2025, 2027, and 2030. And just pointing out that for all of these examples, we see significant gaps in terms of U.S. capabilities, not only for sourcing material, but for processing material as well. And so again, especially these materials highlighted in light blue, you see we sort of play out where those come into play for batteries. And these are all things that are really a primary focus in terms of our build out of the critical minerals and materials involved in the lithium battery supply chain, sort of as I mentioned before. So let's go to the next slide. And I want to talk about who we work with for our work in batteries here. And so there's a few examples provided, and I'll talk through each of these. But in terms of our leadership here, MESC 20, we're leading on the Joint Strategy Team, which is an internal to DOE technology-based working group that's really focused around our understanding of battery technologies and the readiness of those technologies, either to be deployed or manufactured. And so this is, again, a broad working group that's really looking at this long-term, like 2050 sort of timeframe strategy for technologies. In the middle, we have a bit more of a here and now in terms of our working across the government to broadly support lithium batteries, definitely in the near term. And in fact, we released the document there, the National Blueprint for Lithium Batteries a couple of years ago now, but a really good read that highlights some of our near-term goals and targets for these technologies and the needs for these materials, sort of that I mentioned on the previous slide. Big involvement across the government, 91 agencies, over 80 offices, a lot of folks involved here, and we're happy to pull them together and sort of get a critical mass of government behind a lot of the work that's happening here. And then on the right, I'll mention the LiBridge partnership is a public-private partnership that we've pulled together over the past couple of years. This involves a number of different trade groups as well as industry members, and we've held a number of forums, and they also release their own reports. And again, something else that we use to sort of keep our fingers on the pulse of the industry. At the bottom there, just a quick mention, we also continue some dedicated joint work with the Vehicle Technologies Office on the recycling of batteries from vehicles, just as a good mention of some of our ongoing work in MESC 20. Next slide, please. I've been talked a lot about batteries, and so I just wanted to spend a specific slide here and mention broadly, or more broadly, critical materials coordination and collaboration. Similar to the previous slide, you'll notice a lot of work across DOE in terms of these other offices, including advanced manufacturing, fossil energy and carbon management, the Vehicle Technologies Office, ARPA-E, the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, Basic Energy Sciences, Office of Electricity, and International Affairs. All of these folks are working on these different areas kind of across the board here in terms of pulling together the whole of DOE to focus on the area of critical materials. So that's generally on the left. In terms of in the center here, we do have a focus on rare earth elements. And in fact, one of the areas that we're also responsible for is a follow-on effort to a phase one project, or phase one projects that are underway from the Fossil Energy and Carbon Management Office that is providing rare earth materials from feedstocks domestically available otherwise. And so highlighting a number of working groups there's been a number of publications from these working groups and from these offices. And so I just want to highlight that we're involved in these efforts and helping to pull together the whole of DOE for these important areas. So let's go on to the next slide. We've talked on this, and I think Julia did a great job showing what these different areas are and what this process means for us. So I'm not going to dwell on this one much further, except to say that you'll see a number of different funding opportunities coming out from our office, and some that we've previously run, some that we're currently executing, and some that we talked about today that maybe will come through for a second round. And so this process broadly will apply to all of those, and that's sort of how we're doing business here with folks in the coming time frame. Okay, just a couple more slides from me. Let's go to the next one. I'm going to talk a little bit of detail here on some of our awards from the first phase of the battery material processing and manufacturing grants that we've mentioned. A number of different awardees here, and so there's I think some really key efforts that do a good job painting the picture of the type of work that we like to support, the types of materials that we know are necessary for batteries and want to see further. There's more information available on the web there with that detail at the bottom, but some really fantastic projects that we're excited to highlight here, and maybe just a bit of foreshadowing of further examples to come as we go to the next slide here in terms of round two. We made an announcement just a little while ago in terms of our second cut at putting out these a call for proposals to support projects for battery materials processing and manufacturing. You'll see a number of the major themes here, both enhancing our domestic capabilities and security to provide these essential clean energy technologies and batteries, as well as supporting some of the goals for both Justice 40 and workforce and moderate and low income communities. We're really excited to go through another round of proposals, and can't wait to see what folks submit. So with that, we'll go on, and I'm going to transfer to Jake Ward from MESC 30. Jake?
All right. Thank you very much, Stephen, and good morning and good afternoon, everyone, depending on from where you're joining us. I'm happy to talk through the last of our three subprograms within MESC, Analysis and Strategic Investment for the Energy Sector Industrial Base, and I will plan to do so relatively efficiently to make sure we leave time at the end for our human capital colleagues. So with that, let's move forward to the next slide. So the first slide here is meant to give you an overview of how the various pieces of MESC 30 fit together. You can see the mission of this particular subprogram is highlighted at the top. Targeted investment in critical mid and downstream energy technologies, including components, devices, and systems, informed by integrated cross-cutting manufacturing and supply chain analysis. And you can see the various programs here really support that overarching mission. We have a family of investments in the mid and downstream in the first and second column here, supported by, on the right-hand side, the cross-cutting manufacturing and supply chain analysis. So I'll hit these at a high level, but have slides going into each of these in more detail subsequent to the current slide. So in terms of tax credits and rebates, we have a broad family of tax credits through our 48C program, totaling $10 billion across areas like recycling, clean energy manufacturing, critical materials, and industrial greenhouse gas emissions reduction, as well as targeted rebates for distribution transformers and extended product systems. In the center column, you see additional types of targeted investment across energy supply chains. The first of those leveraging DOE's Defense Production Act authority for several designated energy technologies, heat pumps, grid components, clean hydrogen, solar, and insulation. Investments for helping transition the manufacturing facilities and workforce from conventional to electrified vehicles. And finally, our energy sector industrial-based team, which has a variety of technical expertise across energy technology areas and supply chains. And finally, modeling, mapping, analysis on the right-hand side. In the first area there, our consortium working with DOE's family of 17 national labs, leveraging expertise and capabilities there to support insights across manufacturing and energy supply chains, and sprint analyses like that highlighted in the lower right-hand corner of your slide, synthesizing the latest, greatest knowledge across DOE and our stakeholders to inform insights and investments at the department. Let's go to the next slide for a bit of a deeper dive into the first of those programs, the 48C Investment Tax Credit. Again, this is a $10 billion program across a broad spectrum of potential investment areas, including clean energy manufacturing and recycling, critical materials, and industrial greenhouse gas emissions project. This is a program that was initially launched back in 2009, was extended and expanded by the Inflation Reduction Act here more recently, and presents MESC and the department to invest broadly across these areas. You can see on the right-hand side a great opportunity to engage across these technologies with considerations of commercial viability, greenhouse gas emissions impact, strengthening U.S. supply chains and domestic manufacturing for a net zero economy, and workforce and community engagement. So broad impact and broad opportunity here. On the next slide, we have a complementary program which looks much more specifically at two technology areas. Here we have $10 million in rebates each for energy efficient transformers and energy efficient extended product systems, which is a catch-all phrase to refer to technologies like air compressors, pumps, and fans. You can see images of those in the center of the slide here. The idea with these programs is that these technologies are ready to go, and these rebates really are helping encourage the private sector to make the most efficient investment possible in terms of energy efficiency. Also, bonus considerations for investing in disadvantaged communities and where these investments can help strengthen grid resilience. On the next slide, we have another example of another targeted investment, this one through our Defense Production Act authority, which the president invoked last year, June 2022, to 5 specific technologies: transformers and electric grid components, platinum group metals, electrolyzers, and fuel cells, solar components, insulation, and heat pumps. The last of those is the only technology currently appropriated, $250 million via the Inflation Reduction Act. DOE just announced its first round of awards through this program in the past few weeks. So looking forward to those heat pump projects getting off the ground in the coming months. On our next slide, we have one more example of targeted investment. Next slide, please. In the form of our domestic conversion grants for electrified vehicles. This is a program that makes available $2 billion in funding for all recipients involved in converting domestic manufacturing capabilities to support the production of electrified vehicles across the supply chain. And when we say electrified vehicles, the specific uses in scope, as shown on the left and right-hand side of your slides, include hybrid, plug-in electric hybrid, plug-in electric drive, and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. This program is ongoing, and we're looking forward to it making an impact in the coming months. On the next slide, we zoom out to see how all these pieces fit together to comprise the energy sector industrial base, which is all of these industries, all of these sectors, all of these technologies together, from extractive industries to manufacturing industries to energy conversion and delivery industries to end of life and service industries. Working with MESC, working with MESC 30 and working with the ESIB team is a great opportunity to look across and in between all of these intersections to help this energy ecosystem and the manufacturing and supply chain that supports it work more effectively. And then finally, one more slide for MESC 30. This is a highlight of our modeling, mapping, and analysis consortium. So a nice complement across our national labs, looking from raw materials through subsystem and system assembly to clean energy technologies and recycling end of life across a variety of mapping, modeling, and analysis tools you see on the lower left-hand side of your screen, leveraging the latest and greatest expertise across DOE's 17 national labs. And so with that, I think we conclude the summary of the various aspects of the MESC program, and I am happy to hand it over to my HC colleague, Michelle Brown, to take it from here. Michelle.
Thank you so much, Jake. Hello, everyone. I am joined by my colleague, Don Jackson, and we are with the Office of Recruitment and Advisory Services within Human Capital. Next slide. The Office of Manufacturing and Energy Supply Chains is part of the Department of Energy, which has a broad and diverse portfolio across its major mission areas of nuclear security, science, energy, and environmental remediation. DOE has over 14,000 federal employees combined. While headquartered in Washington, D.C., DOE has a geographically distributed workforce with extensive field operations. We have 4 power marketing administrations responsible for marketing and transmitting clean hydroelectric power across the United States. We have over 83 field sites across the country to help the department deliver top-notch scientific and engineering solutions to the nuclear, environmental, and energy challenges facing our nation. DOE also oversees 17 groundbreaking, award-winning national laboratories, which are operated by 95,000 contractors nationwide. Our mission is incredible, and DOE is an amazing place to work. In fact, DOE ranked #1 overall in America's Best Employers for Veterans in 2023 by Forbes magazine. We also ranked 8th in the Best Places to Work for Mid-sized Federal Agencies in 2022 by the Partnership for Public Service. We have a fantastic team of employees who support each other in reaching our goals. Next slide. DOE offers a competitive base pay and a comprehensive benefits package that includes up to 5% matching contributions to your 401k, as well as a defined benefit pension at retirement. We have extensive options for healthcare, dental, and vision coverage, and we offer long-term care insurance and flexible spending accounts. We also offer up to 12 weeks of paid parental leave, which is uncommon in the private sector. And we have 11 paid federal holidays and generous accrual rates for annual leave, as well as distinct sick leave benefits. We reward employees through annual performance-based awards, as well as special act and on-the-spot awards throughout the year. And we support employee work-life balance through our flexible work hours, compressed work schedules, and we have expanded telework and remote work across the department, allowing us to reach qualified candidates from all over the nation. We've also increased services available through our Employee Assistance Program to better support our employees and their families' health and well-being. And for the veterans out there, employment in the Federal Civil Service offers you credit for retirement and leave accrual purposes. At DOE, we are very committed to continuous learning, and we work to expand career development opportunities by providing our employees with access to mentoring and coaching, opportunities to broaden their professional experiences through rotations and details, as well as leadership development programs to ready our high potential employees for leadership responsibility. Next slide, please. So we want to let you know that we are posting new jobs all the time. So we encourage you to save your search on USA Jobs, and this way the system will email you as frequently as daily as new jobs at DOE become available. To save a search, you simply sign into your USA Jobs account. If you don't yet have a profile, please go ahead and create one to be able to save searches. And then start your job search using the filters on the right-hand side of the page. Under Department and Agency, select Department of Energy. Next slide. Under Series, select the occupations that you're interested in. Next slide. And under Hiring Path, select all hiring paths you are eligible for. We encourage you to search and apply under all hiring paths you're eligible for and all positions you are qualified to perform. Next slide. You may further narrow your search results by typing a city and state or type remote as your geographic preference and click Save this search on the page. Name your search and choose how frequently you want to be notified. We recommend daily because some jobs can open and close within 1 week. And lastly, save your search. Next slide. Federal resumes do require a lot more detail than one you would submit for a position in the private sector. So I offer you a few things to consider as you prepare your federal resume. Make sure you tailor your resume specifically for the position you're applying for and relate how your experience meets the requirements of that position. Consider how you structure your resume to showcase your experience. List your work experiences by date with the most current position first to help you communicate your career progression. Capture the major duties for each position you've held, as well as the results you've achieved. Use numbers, percentages, dollar amounts, statistics, and other quantifiable data to describe your achievements and outcomes. And use language that's easily understood and action verbs to describe your duties and accomplishments. Be sure to highlight your relevant certifications and licenses, as well as your education and any job-related honors and awards, and even volunteer work that's relevant to the position. While a one-page resume may be common in the private sector, a federal resume will be substantially longer. To effectively detail your skills and past duties and accomplishments, a range of 2 to 5 paged resume is recommended. Next slide. So to summarize, the resume that you attach to your application must clearly state all relevant work experiences for the time periods that you performed them. So format your resume in reverse chronological order, starting with your most recent experience first and work your way back. List the organization, job title, and starting and ending dates for each work experience. Indicate the number of hours worked per week on average, or simply state full-time or part-time. If you've held a federal job before, make sure you indicate the pay plan series and grade for that job. Detail the major duties, level and amount of responsibility you held, and significant accomplishments you had. And lastly, indicate education, certifications, job-related training, language skills, professional organizations and affiliations, publications, volunteer work, and lastly, a list of 2 to 3 professional references. Next slide. Once you've prepared your federal resume, we invite you to apply to DOE's very own Clean Energy Corps applicant portal available at energy.gov/applicant-portal. DOE has created this applicant portal to provide you with a simple and effective way to submit your resume for consideration, especially if you may not be familiar with the federal application process. From this portal, you'll be able to identify your areas of interest and geographic location preference. Your resume will be made available to multiple hiring managers throughout the agency for review. In addition to DOE's applicant portal, we also invite you to apply to DOE's open announcements on usajobs.gov. Next slide. If you will be applying on the Clean Energy Corps applicant portal for the very first time, during the disclosure step under applicant source, select Other and type hashtag MESC information session so that we know you were referred from this event. If you've already applied to the applicant portal, you do not have to reapply. Your pre-existing profile will be updated with this referral code automatically because you registered for our event. If you have any questions, you may email us at meschiring@hq.doe.gov. And we look forward to receiving your applications. I'll turn it back over to you, Angela.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. That was some really great information. And it's timely because we are hiring for a variety of positions, such as project officers, supply chain deployment managers, general engineers, physical scientists, and even management analysts. Stacy, will you please skip to the last slide? Last slide, there we go. One more slide. Thank you. So it looks like we ran out of time today to answer any questions, but don't worry, we've compiled a list of frequently asked questions and we will email them to you along with a recording of this presentation. And this concludes today's information session. We really hope to hear from you soon. Thanks again to our presenters and to all of you for attending, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.